Good deal. Are there any questions? Only, well, let me rephrase that. Are there any questions that you want to bring up in public?
How does it all end?
Soon. Now, I had a young man who came up and asked me a very good question. Can y'all hear me? I've never had any trouble being heard. Except when Honey Bunny says shut up and I stand up, then you know how it is. My friend over here, Cameron, may I call you Cam? Thank you. Had a very good question, folks. What was the question you heard? No, they didn't hear it, did they? Okay, let me fill you in. Remember, I told you that if you have a question, if you don't mind and you share it and all, then we expect everybody, if you have the time and the ambition, to sort of research it. That always helps. One reason I say that is, and you'll see me, these aren't rabbit trails or anything. There is so much to talk about to just give a cursory introduction to prophecy. So much that the hard part is not having the stuff to talk about, it's knowing what to talk about when. Okay? And there's one thing that, or a couple things that I really appreciated if you would understand. First and foremost, the Word of God, the Scripture, and as I've said, I am partial to the King James Version. I don't mind the where art thou's and where at's and all that. But if you don't understand that, you could be at a disadvantage if you don't go to one that you can understand. Okay? Point being, don't take my word, his word, David Jeremiah's word, John Hagee, J. Vernon McGee. Don't take our word for it. And those evangelists will tell you, you've got a brain. Use it. God gave you a brain. There's nothing magic about my interpretation. I research, you research, and we sort of try to take after a certain group of people who really, really do follow the scripture. Okay? There's something that I always bring up as well. No, and it's one of the top things that we have to look at. There will be all kinds of discussions and all of that. There's one thing that you have to remember in all of this and all of that Bible, and that is what? Huh?
It's perfect.
Well, it's perfect. That's true. But the main thing you need to always keep in your mind is a lot of this stuff will have nothing to do with your personal salvation. It has a lot to do with how you understand the Bible and you can be in a relationship with the Lord. But we can have different opinions on things. But the number one thing, what is required for your salvation?
Believe in Jesus Christ, resurrection, and believe he ascended to hell and ascended down to hell and up to heaven.
Man, I tell you. Good. We had other answers in here, and everybody in here knows that. It's your acceptance of Jesus, who he is, what he's doing, what he's done for you, acceptance of that. And with the Holy Spirit in here, you will start trying to do better because it just happens. It's unbelievable. It just happens. Okay? Keep that in mind. Now, my friend over here, Cameron, what or why are the Jews God's chosen people? Who has the answer? I didn't either. I had to go look it up. Okay? Anybody have any thoughts? Okay,
Like-
and that, good question, yes.
Are you asking like why the Jews are persecuted or like what?
No? Why did God choose Israel
Over
over everybody else to be his chosen people? And he made this choice way back in the Old Testament.
Exodus.
Okay? Let me give you the answer. They were chosen to carry out God's plan of salvation, and they were chosen to do that. Remember, God, beginning and the end, he knows everything. Now, it was first supposed to be the Jewish people, then in his infinite wisdom and mercy, we, the Gentiles, got the same blessing. The disciples carried that all over, right? Okay. Now, one of the reasons for this, they were a small group of people. Were they the mightiest kingdom in the world, all full of soldiers and like Egypt and Rome? No, they were not. They were very vulnerable people. They were vulnerable in many different ways, not just militarily, but in many different ways, because they were a small group of people. They started off as the Hebrews, okay? And then, of course, they spoke Aramaic, and that's going way back, and we're going to hit this timeline that you can't see in a minute. Now, they were the least likely people to survive on their own. Do you understand that? That he picked these people, and what does that mean? Those three things I just told you: small group, vulnerable, and they probably couldn't survive on their own.
They'd be nothing without God. They would be nothing without God, basically.
Man, I'll tell you, you won't teach. I'm serious. No, very good. Did everybody hear that? They would be nothing without God. God, what did God pick all through the Bible to go out and do his will? The weak, fishermen, Rahab. It ain't just men, Rahab. What was Rahab? She was a harlot. But the lineage came down through that. There were murderers, there were thieves, there were things of that nature that supposedly, well, let me rephrase that. The Jews considered Matthew a thief and a bad person. Why? Taxes. He was taken. Now, was Matthew Jewish or was Matthew? Well, he would have been a Jew by then. But was he of the original group, the Israelites? Shake your head no. I'm kidding. He was. Okay. He was. He was a Jew, but he more or less deserted his people in order to do what he did at collecting taxes, and he was well paid for it. But they hated him because the oppression from the Romans and all, that's what ended up causing the problem for him. And when Jesus asked Matthew to come along and be one of his disciples, even the disciples weren't real happy over that. He was a tax collector. So understand, that's a perfect example there of they were considered by God to be a good illustration of what God can do. Okay? Main point, you don't have to be the fiercest warrior in the country. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world, because most of the people that Jesus, in the New Testament, that Jesus was affiliated with, they were not the movers and shakers. Not at all. But what is it that God says? He will take a broken vessel and use it. And he does. Okay. Any questions on that? To summarize that, it's not about human might and power. It is about the divine promise that God gave to the world. Okay? The last thing is the lineage would be carried out. The Jews are one of the very, very, very few Israelites, Jews. They're one of the very few cultures and groups of people that have survived as a country all of these years. Okay. Now, did they have it easy? Did they have hard times? Yeah. Why did they have hard times most of the time?
Disobedience to God.
Absolutely. Disobedient, rebellion, and they were just sine wave up and down, sine waves, and all that stuff. They're down at the bottom, and they're sorry. They work their way back up. Then they get high and mighty. Then they rebel. Then God whacks them. That's the Bible according to Richard. He whacked them. Right back. Did he ever desert them? No. Were there times that he was silent?
Yes.
Shake your head, yes, because there were times, especially a 400-year time. Now, let's look very quickly at this. You probably can't see it. All right. We start over here. This is not meant to be totally inclusive, but this is the Old Testament. I'm not going to bore you with creation, flood, Abraham's call to Canaan. All right. Jacob, Joseph, it's what we're looking at here, 4,000 BC. Can everybody see that? Can you just imagine? No. This gives you a timeline. I have seen timelines that an astrophysicist could not understand. They've got the wheels and the spokes and this. All you need to remember here is about 4,000 BC, and over here is the end of the Old Testament prophets. Okay? How much time is there in there? There's 4,000 BC, 400 BC. That's the end of the prophets, but that's not the end of the Old Testament. What happened after the Old Testament?
Jesus. Maccabees.
Yes, 400 years. Remember? Yes. Yes. There's 400 years in there that God, everybody sort of stayed quiet. Okay. What comes after the 400 years? New Testament. And what is the New Testament? It's the
story of Jesus.
Sorry? It is Messiah. It is the new covenant. What was the old covenant? I apologize. I have
You're saying, you gotta speak up for him.
Well, no, I could hear that thing. You wouldn't believe I could hear that. No, but and forgive me if and I'm not questioning you. I really need to hear. Yeah, say again.
The Mosaic Law.
Exactly right. The Mosaic Law that was given to the Hebrews. They had things to do. How many rules were there when he first gave it to Moses?
Around 300.
Roughly around 300.
No,
Yeah.
10.
Oh, 10.
10.
What about the extra commandments?
10 commandments. Well, we're working on that. 10.
Okay.
There were 10 commandments. I love these guys here. They ask a lot of good questions. Okay. 10 Commandments. Well, what happened as soon as old Moses starts walking down the hill with the 10 Commandments?
Disobeyed.
They're already disobeying. They're already building,
Now,
well, golden calves. Golden calves. Now, where do you think they might have learned that? Egypt.
Egypt, the Pharaoh,
Who did Egypt worship?
the Pharaoh, or other gods.
Baal. And Baal seems to be a common denominator in a lot of those things. All right. And well, some people call it Baal. That sound like the cat. Oh, I like Baal. Okay. But then came, as my good friend over here said, about, well, there's 10, about 603 more more laws. Who added those?
God.
Man.
Mankind in the form of, you know this, in the form of the leaders of the Jewish church.
Pharisees and Sadducees.
Pharisees, Sadducees. Now, all of a sudden they came along and they said, you know what? I don't like those flowery, that's what we always call them, Hawaiian shirts, flowery Hawaiian, they're like race deep. You're not allowed to wear them, it's a sin. Didn't make any sense. Does that mean it was correct?
No.
No. God had 10 basic commandments that pretty well covered everything. But they started in their human way of adding don'ts and do's. Okay? Now, when man, I keep hitting myself, forgive me. Oh, and there's something that she made fun of me all week. Y'all remember me saying the ring of fire last week?
Yeah.
She laughed at me all week long about, and so I'm like, love is burning. Ding, 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 ding. That's the ring of fire.
Yeah.
All right. I got Johnny all mixed up with this. It's the crescent, but the crescent is more appropriate for a New Testament study on current events because it's actually a wall of fire that the Muslim nations are going to put Israel through, if you will. That gets into Gog and Magog and all that. And it's just where these countries are going to line up. Now, there's two different theories on it. One of them is come down through here and you've got Iran and Syria and and Israel over here and Iraq and Iran. And it comes around and it goes over to the North African countries. Then you've got the one that says, yeah, but it's got a spur on it. It comes over here and it goes to Yemen and places. Is that pertinent to our salvation? No. All that means is there's going to be a whole bunch of people come against Israel, and God is going to take care of them. He will destroy them. Now, is God, a lot of people, they have these conjectures about, oh, yeah, it's going to be a nuclear war where God, he takes it some to nuke there, and these countries come in and he gets their nukes and all that. No, not. It's going to be his word. Because our God, all he has to do is speak it. Okay? That'll be later. Now, what we're going to do is look up in this area. This was the United Kingdom, not Great Britain or anything like that. This was, who can answer what comprised Israel, the whole country at that time, around the time of Solomon? Israel to the north. What was it, the south? Judah. And what is Jesus called? The Lion of Judah. Okay. So this is just saying, okay, we had Solomon, who was a great, great king. Was Solomon sinless? Absolutely not. Pastor, kick in. What all Solomon do?
Well, God gave him 3 rules. God said, I'm going to give you a reign of peace, so do not spend any money on your defense budget. Well, he did. He spent a lot of money, had the best horses, best chariots, best soldiers, best armor. Again, nothing wrong with having those things, but when God said, don't do it because we're going to have a time of peace, you didn't trust God. Strike
Mhm.
one.
Mhm.
Said, strike two, I'm going to make you rich, but you don't need to hoard all the wealth you can possibly find. Well, he did. He became one of the most wealthy men to have ever exist in human history. Strike two. And strike three, God said, do not multiply to yourself many strange wives. Not strange, tall, short, stubby, weird, whatever looking. Strange meaning they don't follow God. They don't follow our God. Well, he did. He had a minimum of 1,000 committed relationships with women plus many, many more. Well, strike one, two, three, you're out. So God said, because of your sin, I'm going to rip the kingdom in half. But because I loved your dad so much, David, I'm going to wait till you're dead and I'm going to do it to your son.
Excellent. Excellent. Young people, let me tell you, it's hard enough to please one wife, so don't give any idea. Take that from a man who knows. Right, baby doll?
Yes, sir.
All you need to learn is, yes, sweetheart. Different intonations. Oh, yes, sweetheart. Can I have $5? I'm kidding. Now, as Michael said, we had the North Kingdom that I just told you. Well, they split into the Northern Kingdom. Why do we call him king? Because he's a king. Southern Kingdom had king. Who was the Northern Kingdom and who was the king? I'll give you a minute to think about that. Okay. You ever heard of Rehoboam? Rehoboam. Okay. He was part of the lineage, so to speak. Okay. But Rehoboam was in charge of the entire Israel when they split, as Michael said. One of the reasons the northern kingdom split off was they were being heavily taxed. Everybody was doing the stuff that they weren't supposed to do. Basically, they just got into a big old mess. Okay. Rehoboam was a poor leader, very poor leader. I don't mean poor this way. He was just not worth 2 cents as a leader. All right. And then he started idolatry. Now, what has been one of the major points of all of the Bible as it relates to the Israelites and the Jews? That's exactly right. And what they do? They had other gods before him. They made idols and all of that. You remember, even with King Saul, why did they want a king?
Was everybody else down on?
Yep.
That's exactly right. That ain't fair. They have a king. I mean, we don't have a king.
Yeah, God.
And God says, yeah, you do. Right here. I'm the king. I'm the number one. Did that please them? No. So God gave them Solomon. How'd that work out?
You started getting salt.
We got this thing that Honey Bunny and I, oh, this is Honey Bunny, HB. We talk about how'd that work out? Not too good. Huh?
John Boy and Billy.
John Boy, that's exactly what the team at. That's like whenever they come to get you and you try to run from the law and you've got flip flops on. How does that work? Not too good. Okay. So northern Israel fell to Assyria. Okay. Now that was let me look. That was early on, like so many, I think it's 150 years before Nebuchadnezzar, roughly that. All right. Now, fall of the northern kingdom in 722 BC. Northern kingdom is who? Israel. Israel. Now, fall of the southern kingdom was about 150, 130 years after that. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. Now, the southern kingdom, Judah, they started off, they're going to follow God's laws and all that kind of stuff. But did they continue on following God's laws? No, they did not. All right. Now, Egypt was pretty powerful back then, and Nebuchadnezzar defeated. Yes.
So I got a question about the whole Old Testament.
Shit.
So I think we asked this during Bible study earlier, in the week. How did God speak to the Israelites in Egypt and the pharaohs and stuff? Like,
In Egypt
or just
specifically?
in general, just the whole Old Testament.
Well, you remember God started off talking and walking with Adam and Eve. Then my belief is that on up, when you talk about Job and people like that, I think God had more of a personal discussion with those people. What think you, sir?
Yeah, visions, dreams,
Visions, dreams,
conversations.
but God was not beyond speaking directly to certain people.
What about the burning bush and Moses?
Burning bush and Moses. That's not a vision, it's an occurrence. Okay. Could Moses look upon God?
Yeah.
Why?
He would die. He would die.
He would die.
He would die.
Say, I think, right?
The ground was holy. He would die. You can't look upon God because, and you'll see later on in Revelation, that's one of the things that you pick up in Revelation. God the Father, he cannot look on sin
Oh.
because he's perfect. Okay. Is Jesus Christ perfect? Yes, he is. But when Jesus took on human form, that means that he could see sin. I mean, God can't do that. It would mess up his perfection. And at the risk of being too short on that, that's a whole other different, really big, deep thing to get into. Okay, but that's a good question. It is. But then, as they were in Egypt, who did he give a lot of visions and stuff to?
Moses and Aaron, right?
Moses.
Aaron,
Who else?
the Pharaoh, the Romans.
Yeah. He even gave the writing on the wall to who?
Sorry.
Oh, Nebi. Gave it to Nebuchadnezzar, didn't he?
Belshazzar.
Daniel.
Yeah, Belshazzar, his nephew, saw the.
Well, I'm not the writing on the wall. You're right. The other football on my part. Owned whenever he saw the Colossus. And I'm telling you, I'm getting old, folks. I get some things mixed up here, so bear with me. Okay. Daniel interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Right? Okay. Well, he not only, if he did that to show Nebuchadnezzar, did he not show it to him in a dream? So God can show anybody anything he wants to. Then he had Daniel interpret the dream. First of all, Daniel had to tell him what the dream was. Then he had to interpret. That's something we'll get into in Revelation. Then, as you said, Belshazzar. I always get confused because you got Belteshazzar which was one of the Hebrew children and all of that. Yeah. And then you have Belshazzar, the king, who was actually the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, because Nebuchadnezzar's son was off in battle. Okay? That's a whole bunch of trivia. You don't need to remember. Okay, now, so in 605 BC, Nebuchadnezzar defeated Egypt, and Egypt was basically in charge of Judah. But Nebuchadnezzar did not go in and destroy them. He wanted them to be what's called a vassal state. A vassal state, one of the people who was really, really big on that was Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great used his head. He would do these blitzkriegs. He'd go in, he wouldn't destroy everything. What he would do is he would go in and he'd say, okay, you're going to be the queen. All that's required of you. You can pretty much run things how you want to. You can cause trouble, all that. You can have your own religion, but you got to have me some people to be in my army, and you got to pay taxes. Okay? And then you just assimilate. Now, of course, they're going to try their best to get you to switch over to their religion, because just like they're trying to take over this country here today, you get the children, you take over their religion, you get rid of their history, and pretty soon they assimilate. They just come right in and they learn, it ain't too bad. We make pretty good money and all that. That's what they would do. All right. So in 597 BC, Judah revolts. Okay. Where is Judah? Southern kingdom. Okay. Now, Nebuchadnezzar then, he besieges Jerusalem. What do we mean by besieging?
Surrounds it, cuts it off.
Surrounds it. Nothing goes in, nothing comes out. Basically, you starve them to death and you cut off their water. Okay? And when we say besiege, there's places, I can't remember what I read the other night about a place. They had been under siege for 11 years. It wasn't biblical. In the biblical country, a country, it wasn't a Jewish country, but 11 years. And they had fixed it to where, well, that was the one where they started using biological warfare. They took catapults and put the people who were dead and rotten and diseased, and they'd shoot them over into the city beyond the walls, so they would die of diseases. Okay? So this was some bad stuff. All right? Now, did God tell Judah, well, actually both of them, but Judah, did God tell Judah to revolt? No. He said, no, don't revolt. You just go, you do what they say, it ain't too bad. Just keep on doing what they ask you to do. They revolted again. So, Nebuchadnezzar then went in and besieged Jerusalem. He deports King Jeconiah, replaces him with Zedekiah. Zedekiah rebels. Well, old Nelly, he said, that's it. I've had enough. I've given you opportunities. But who do you think was leading Nebuchadnezzar? God. God, you ain't learned your lesson. How'd that work out? Not too good. Okay, so he destroys Jerusalem. You know Jerusalem, don't you? Jerusalem, burns the temple.
Didn't the temple get rebuilt? Didn't the temple get rebuilt?
Not in this era,
No.
okay? All right, again, that's something else we'll get into. Huh?
Oh,
Yeah, well, I hate to keep it from.
oh, yeah, I see it.
Temple rebuilt.
Okay, yeah. But that's 20-some years later, but the main thing is Nebuchadnezzar was pretty smart for his time. He was. He knew that if you go in and completely destroy this country, you're gonna have nothing but a destroyed country. Now, if they have riches and they have businesses and all of that, why not just get them to give you payment on some of the stuff they earn? Let them keep working. That's pretty smart. Now, then he initiates the major Babylonian captivity. What do we know about the major Babylonian captivity? Okay. That was in two ways. Okay. First of all, when the northern kingdom was annihilated, they were annihilated. Then you had the different, Nebuchadnezzar would give them a chance and then they'd blow it. And God would say, okay, we're going to do this, and they wouldn't do it. So Daniel was exiled in the first wave of capture and bringing in 605 BC. But if you look on your paper, Daniel was in the royal court. God had prepared Daniel to eventually become one of Nebuchadnezzar's basically second in command. He had free reign of a whole lot of stuff. Yes. I only have 5 minutes left. Well, I'll cover well, tell you what, we'll do that next time. I've got something I want to read to you. This is one thing I love to do, to give you some food for thought that's really not necessarily prophetic, but it does add to it. I'm gonna read this to you. I can't believe. Is heaven real?
Yes.
Science may reveal where God's eternal kingdom exists. How many of you get sick and tired of hearing everybody all over the world, especially the news media, bash Christians?
Heard something yesterday, Nigeria. 26, I think, churches burned down. Islamic terrorists.
Yeah, that's right. Listen to this. This is encouraging. When our son was 4 years old, he asked my wife and me, "Can you drive to heaven?" Out of the mouth of babes, right? It's a question only a child would ask, but it raises a very adult question. Where exactly is heaven described in the Bible? This has been something that's burned my brain up since I was a little guy. People say, well, heaven, we got how many heavens? What are they?
Mandate of heaven.
First heaven,
Oh,
stars,
first,
all that. Second heaven is outer space. Third heaven is where God resides. And you will hear that from Paul and others. The third heaven. Anybody heard of that? Third heaven? Okay. Well, look up third heaven. Remember what I told you last week? That little telephone, all you got to do is say, where is the third heaven according to the Bible? And it'll tell you. And it's as easy as that. All right. Now, according to the Bible, the lowest level of heaven is Earth's atmosphere, mid-level is outer space, highest levels we're talking about is where God dwells. As for heaven's location, the Bible contains many verses that describe us as looking up at God in heaven, and God is looking down at us on earth. Imagine boarding a nuclear-powered rocket and traveling straight up into deep space. Will you ever reach a point far enough up into space that you finally reach heaven? What does everybody think of that? No. Do you think God had that planned? He didn't want nosy humans snooping. Okay? Before you laugh the idea off, consider this. 1929, American attorney turned amateur astronomer. This blows my mind. Anybody ever heard of the Hubble telescope? Huh? Have you seen images of the Hubble telescope from there? What's the main point of the Hubble telescope?
See further into deep space.
Further than we've ever seen. We see evidence of a different universe. Okay? But that doesn't mean we can get there. Yes.
Oh, no.
I'll tell you something now. In my place, if you can scratch your head, you get called on.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Edwin Hubble discovered that galaxies are rushing away from one another. Huh? Like so much shrapnel from a bomb. I remember in my lifetime, I wanted to be an astrophysicist, actually. And they were starving to death because nobody was paying. They had to work by grants. And I thought, no, I eat too much to live by a grant. Now, have you heard of the what, baby?
I don't know where you're going.
Big Bang Theory.
The Big Bang.
Anybody heard of Big Bang Theory?
No,
Never got small.
it was an accident.
What?
It was an accident.
All right, listen.
Actually,
We are an accident.
I believe in the Big Bang Theory. You know why?
That's how God said it all.
That's how God, I think God said, let there be bang.
Right.
Now, what they want to do is say, no, that can't be because we came from parameciums and amoeba and all that kind of stuff. All my God had to do is say, happen, boom, bang,
But
pow,
like,
pop. It's going to happen. Now, see, it starts to make sense here. Why? Because when something explodes, even the nebulae and the stars that they see up in the sky, now, when that star explodes, all the parts and pieces go from that center point. Am I right? It's like a bomb. Well, that makes sense then. At one time during my lifetime, some of the people like Carl Sagan and people like that, oh no, the universe is shrinking. Well, since the Hubble telescope, they know it is not shrinking, it is expanding at a phenomenal rate. So fast that you could never catch up. Okay? Now, Hubble also discovered there's a definite pattern to how galaxies are rushing away from each other. Namely, the farther up in space a galaxy is located, the farther away it is from Earth, the faster it's moving away from Earth and everything else. It's called Hubble's law. Well, is there anything in space, deep space, to slow that rascal down? No, there is not. If you keep up with the moon landing back in the 60s and a lot of the other rocketry, their problem wasn't getting up to 35,000 miles an hour. Their problem, how do we stop the trend? It doesn't have brakes on. How do you stop it? Okay? Rockets and all that. Now, theoretically, a galaxy that's 273 billion trillion miles away from Earth, moving at 186,000 miles a second, speed of light. Distance way up there in space is called the cosmic horizon. All you need to think about. The cosmic horizon. That means you and I can never reach the cosmic horizon. That means in Hubble telescope, how far can we see? We can see out to the cosmic horizon. You can't see beyond that. Okay? So Only light and certain other known materials skip it any further to look at because all right. It's entirely possible heaven is located on the other side of the cosmic horizon. Why? One, according to modern cosmology, an entire universe exists beyond the cosmic horizon, but it's permanently hidden from us because we can never reach, let alone cross over the cosmic horizon. You think that might be God's place where he lives? I think it's possible. I really do. Two, our best astronomical observations and Einstein's theory, he was one of my heroes. I love him. That's better. See, my hometown was Oak Ridge, Tennessee. That's where the Manhattan Project happened. And my first grade teacher was the wife of John Borkowski. You ever heard of John Borkowski? Super duper astrophysicist and nuclear physicist. He invented the screaming pin for John Kennedy as a Geiger counter that he wore all the time. And she was very intelligent lady too. But this is so if John Kennedy, anybody tried to get close to him with radiation like a cobalt, uranium, a little tiny pills enough to give you radiation sickness and kill you. So they could stand in his presence and kill them, but it would really mess him up or kill him too. And nobody would ever know it. Chris says I'm a fount of useless trivia. But this kind of stuff, it makes you think. It's always made me think about the God I serve. He is, you just don't understand. He's so intelligent and he's awesome. Now, unlike time, space does not exist at and beyond cosmic horizon, which means a hidden universe beyond the cosmic horizon is habitable, albeit only by light and light like entities. What is he describing? God, angels, all of that. Four, according to modern cosmology, the cosmic horizon is lined with very oldest celestial objects in the observable universe. That means whatever exists beyond the cosmic horizon. I won't put it there, or go to the last part. All these modern scientific realities, this is the part I wanted you to hear, and others are why it's entirely reasonable to speculate heaven is indeed located up there, unless you're on the South Pole, and that is up there from down there. You get what I'm saying? This is a sphere. Up is from any point on earth up in the sky. Am I wrong? No. Okay. Now, way above our heads, heaven is indeed located up there beyond the visible starlit universe, just as the Bible indicates. This is coming from high-powered scientists. Heaven is inaccessible to us mortals while we're alive, just as the Bible indicates. Heaven is inhabited by non-material, timeless beings, just as the Bible indicates. Here, this shows me that the scientists are coming up with proof the Bible's right. Don't you think that's wonderful? Don't you think that God gives us a little bit of victory to encourage us because we're always getting beat down? We're crazy. We're stupid. We're ridiculous. That's impossible. Well, when you don't think that God exists, I guess you could say that. But my God can do anything. Okay? He gives us all this stuff we're reading here. He would give his followers hope. That's what we need, and that's what he's given us today. Now, are we getting completely away from prophecy? Absolutely not. You gotta understand some of these things before you can understand why prophecy is as it is and was as it was. You've got to understand from whence we came. All right? Does that make sense? Because if I ain't making sense, I'm just up here, as my grandma said, talking to hear your head rattle. And you know, any questions? Okay. I appreciate your time. Really do. I appreciate that. This is a joy for me to get to do this. And I'll tell you something. I'll tell you every time. Number one, this is God that leads me to do it. And number two, every time I do this, I learn something. There's so much I don't know, but I sure do want to find out. One question. What is our number one thing in our life we don't have to worry about anything but? Well, we don't have to worry about it. We need to be cognizant of it. Salvation. How do we have salvation?
Jesus.
It's a gift from God.
God is just.
Huh?
God is just.
God is. I'm gonna shut up. I'm getting the look from Honeybuddy. Love you guys. Come up with questions, write them down. All right. Thank you for paying attention. I didn't see anybody